Hi, I'm Jim Berggren and pastor at Holy Cross Lutheran Church in Houston, Texas. This is the sermon for the 13th Sunday of Pentecost, to be preached on the 23rd day of August, 2026, Matthew 16, 13 to 20. Who is he? This pre-election time of partisan, self-serving polling, where the answers reflect the hopes of the pollsters, but not necessarily the truths of political reality, Jesus takes a poll. Speaking to his disciples, he inquires, who do people say that the Son of Man is? A variety of speculative opinions are put forward, all of them positing reincarnations of former faith heroes, mostly prophets. Additionally, on the wish of list, high on the wish list of all right-thinking people is a rise to political dominance, worldwide rule, at least in the known world, of the candidate that's favored by the majority. The common Son of Man phrase asks a theoretical question. Who do people generally identify as the best humanity has to offer? Jesus accepts these polling results. That's what he asked for. After all, they are just opinions. His next statement is, okay, that is what they say. Now, what do you say? Simon Peter ingeniously reframes the entire discussion with his answer. You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Brash, impetuous, Simon Peter swings at a lot of pitches and misses. But his answer to Jesus, his confession of faith, is a brilliant home run. He redirects the question from what does humanity have to offer? Not much. To the identification of Jesus as the anointed Son, the best that the living God has to offer to raise humanity. Amazing. What do we have to offer that even compares minimally to what God can do? Langdon Gilkey, former professor of theology at the University of Chicago's Divinity School, taught English in China in the early 1940s. In 1943, he and many other non-Chinese non-combatants in World War II were nevertheless detained by the Japanese and placed into internment camps in central China. Their lifestyles changed in a moment from the privileged and prosperous professors to prisoners in poverty. The Shantung compound was not a death camp, but it most certainly was not Luther Hill. Food was scarce. The camp was horribly crowded. A family of four would be allotted a living space of 9 by 12 feet. That's not even a good size rug. Reflecting on 2 years of struggle and deprivation, Gilkey wrote, the only hope in the human situation is that the religiousness of men find its true center in God and not in the many idols that appear in the course of our experience. This center of loyalty beyond themselves cannot be a human creation, greater than the individual, but still finite, such as the family, the nation, tradition, race, or the church. Only the God who created all men, and so represents none of them exclusively. Only the God who rules all history, and so is the instrument of no particular historical movement. Only the God who judges his faithful as well as their enemies, and loves and cares for all. Only that God can be the creative center of human existence. In the detainment compound, the ultimate concerns of the prisoners were very often not God at all, but self. After all, they were hurting. What must I do to get food for myself and family? How can I get more living space for minimal comfort? Who do I have to bribe or con to get more food or living space, thus depriving someone else of those good things? Professor Gilkey would point out that everyone has a God, even atheists. Our gods are the things that concern us the most. Our ultimate concerns are our gods. Here's praying that our ultimate concern is always Jesus, the Messiah, Son of the living God. Simon Peter hit the nail on the head. Now, this incredible dialogue between Jesus and the disciples takes place in Caesarea Philippi, basically a Roman R&R city, rest and recreation, a retirement enclave for Gentile citizens. In the old days, Caesarea Philippi was a main venue for Baal worship, and then it became a worship center for the god Pan, dedicated. It was a place of entertaining, pandemonium, many demons, as long as you just didn't panic. Caesarea Philippi was a city caught in the thralls of various bad descriptions of God. Bad descriptions of God cause people to perform outrageous rituals, such as infant sacrifice, temple prostitution, slaughter of unbelievers, practices still carried on in the world today. Bad ideas of God produce corresponding bad behavior of humans. Augustus Caesar gave this city named Caesarea to King Herod, who was mostly like a governor of a small territory. When Herod died, it passed to his son Philip, who added his name to honor himself almost as an equal along with Caesar. Caesarea Philippi. The audacity. It was not an accident that Jesus came there, a center of pagan culture, a centerpiece of the domination of empire in that location. We know there is some kind of insurgency in process. And this is not at all a neutral location for someone to say anything like, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." That is trash talk, treason. The consequence for getting caught saying it could be the death penalty. This dialogue takes place in the enemy camp. Anyone overhearing this conversation could be a spy of Caesar, or a local informant paid to spy, or a Roman mole underground in the group of believers following Jesus. Why? Because Caesar is the official Son of God, not anyone else from Galilee. Caesar commands life and death. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Don't even think about defying him. And yet there seems to be a consensus that Jesus was the king of something very important. Jesus tells Pilate his kingdom's not of this world. So Pilate avoids conflict with Rome with his politically safe title for Jesus, the King of the Jews. If that's not true, it's funny. If it is true, who cares? Whatever. Caesar would view that title as a clever ethnic joke. It couldn't backfire on Pilate or his reputation. The dialogue continues. Simon has said, "You are Christ, Son of the living God." Jesus comes back with, "You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church." There's, I think, what should be an obvious inside joke here. You know, fishermen, fishing buddies, fishing tales, they can get pretty weird. Peter had recently taken a lot of ribbing for his fishing buddies. It was one of those hold my beer moments when he jumped out of the boat into the high seas. Hey, if he lives, we'll laugh about it later. Who gets out of a boat in a raging storm? Hey, Simon, you dropped like an anchor for sure. Can you teach me how to sink? You give sinking lessons. Was that the rock backfloat or the skipping stone stroke you did out there? It looked a little more like the pebble paddle or perhaps the boulder butterfly. We're not taking you for granted because that's not nice. After all that teasing, Simon could probably have used a little bit of encouragement. Jesus lifts up Simon Bar-Jonah out of the drowning chaos. And now he lifts him up in status. He's no longer a faithless sinker. He has landed on the ground of being and is now a new stable foundation for the future of the movement. Simon names Jesus as the Son of the living God. Jesus in turn blesses him by renaming him Peter, the rock, the foundation upon which the Jesus movement will be built. Peter has discovered in Jesus the nature of God the Father. God is loving and compassionate, serene in what is normally experienced as adversity, and always doing the work of redemption. God the Father is not a killer, but a life giver. Other sons of God, forgotten emperors of the ages, reflect quite the opposite images. If you ask a rabbi, what is God like? He will rightfully direct you to the Torah and its great wisdom. If you ask an imam, what is God like? He will urge you to study the Quran. A Christian will tell you, go live with Jesus and his friends. That's all you need. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us. We have the living experience of the Son of the living God, gustatory taste, olfactory smells, tactile touch, audio hearing, visual sight. He didn't hurt or kill anyone, no matter how justified it might have been. Does it matter who Jesus is? Only if it matters what God is like. Jesus is the standard by which we live our life, the launching pad, ground zero for creation. It's not a well-known fact. Most of the 20th century, Kansas was the most important state in the United States. How could that be? I mean, look at Alaska, all its resources, oil, timber, minerals, fishing. Look at Hollywood media or Wall Street money. Look at Texas and its NASA dominance in space. All those gifted and productive enterprises depended on a small disk on the Meads Ranch in central Kansas, at the spot where the 39th parallel crosses the 98th meridian. Until 1986, the National Oceanic Survey used that geographical point as the reference for the exact positions every location in the United States, its territories, and actually in the world. Airplanes, ships, satellites came under this survey. Dams were built and missiles launched based on this reference point. Bridges built from both sides over long expanses of water met perfectly in the middle. It was the standard for that technological age. Now all these calculations are triangulated from satellites to the Earth's center of mass. We used to be accurate to the centimeter. Now we are accurate to the millimicron. To function, there has to be a reference point. Jesus, accurately named by Peter as the Son of the living God, is the standard by which we live our lives. Maybe that's why there is so much chaos in our society today. Everyone is using their own reference point, as is repeated in Judges 17:6. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Every man did what was right in his own eyes. No conscience, no moral compass, just Lord of the Flies, animal anarchy. All the utopian fantasies and movements in the world, with their urge to purge, have done an amazingly efficient job of assaulting and killing to achieve their ignorant, anti-historical ends. 100 million people died in the 20th century, mostly civilians, at the service of just one utopian vision filtered through at least four major cultures. In contrast, Jesus didn't hurt or kill anyone. Ism is a very dangerous suffix in this world if it's not filtered through the life of Christ, the Son of the living God, who never hurt or killed anyone, but gave his life for everyone. John Bunyan wrote Pilgrim's Progress. His heroic protagonist was a man named Christian on a journey. Christian traveling to the celestial city with crushing, exhausting load strapped to his back. It's the weight of his own sin. Arriving at the foot of the cross of Jesus, as Bunyan put it, his burden tossed from off his shoulders and began to tumble until it came to the mouth of the tomb, where it fell in and was seen no more, the burden of his sin. That grace is beyond human comprehension, even as it defines God. Bad definitions of God, bad descriptions of God, bad expectations of God. bad behavior. Everyone has a God. Their God is their ultimate concern in their life. 1989, President George H. Bush was entering St. John Episcopal Church in Washington, D.C. He was approached by a homeless man named William Wallace Brown, Jr., who asked the president to pray for him. The president said, "No, you come inside with me and we'll pray for each other." This was reported in the Washington Post, November 2000. Raggedy and uniquely fragrant, Mr. Brown sat in the pews with the rich and the powerful. He became a regular worshiper, and every Sunday he put $1 in the offering plate. One of the ushers, Riley, noted that many of the rich politicians also gave $1 every week. Mr. Brown understood how it worked in the Church of Jesus, built on the foundation of Peter the Rock. The question comes to us through the centuries, but who do you say that I am? What is your ultimate concern? The future of humanity, all of heaven and earth, depend on how each one of us answer that question. Who is he? Amen.